In this lesson, we're going to work on the folds of the t-shirt. Alright, so we have our t-shirt set. There are a couple of things that you'll want to think about whenever you begin creating folds on a t-shirt. First thing is you need to think about the fabric. Is the fabric made of cotton? Is it made of leather? Is it made out of a burlap sack? These are all going to affect the way the folds look. So normally, the heavier the material or the fabric, the larger or thicker the folds are going to be. Now, the lighter the material, so if it was something like this cotton shirt, you're going to have moderately thick wrinkles or folds with some minor folds that are going to be much smaller and very tight in certain areas. Now, if something is very thin, it could be a cotton shirt, but it's a very thin shirt, maybe something like an undershirt or a tank top or something like that. You're going to get a lot of smaller folds, but you're going to get more of them, okay? And they're going to be very tight and very clumped together. So with that, we also want to think about the proportions of the shirt. Is it a larger shirt? Is it a form-fitting shirt? What should this look like? If it's a form-fitting shirt, kind of like this one, you're going to get lots of folds in between the peaks and the valleys. Okay, so for example, with a shirt like this, where it's conforming to the body, we're probably going to get a lot of folds that go in a horizontal direction. Okay, the looser the shirt, the more vertical the wrinkles are going to get. Okay, so the tighter the shirt, the more horizontal they're going to get. Okay. Now you also need to think about where the surfaces of the body are and where they meet the t-shirt. So something that is a little more form-fitting, the surface of the body is going to be on the tops of the shoulders, across the chest, right at the tops of the breasts, okay, and even right here toward the middle. This is where some of the wrinkles may begin. The lower abdomen, that is one of the surface areas. Even right here, across the abdomen here, could be a surface area. Now, another surface area is going to be right here along the hips. That's where the shirt pulls tight. Okay, and then across the arms as well. Now, moving across to the back, some of the surface areas are going to be across the shoulders, right across the shoulder blades. You're going to get less surface area here across the back, especially right here toward the middle. The shirt is actually going to begin pulling out. You're going to get more wrinkles right in this area. Okay, and then it's also going to be a surface area right here across the back. And you're actually going to see more wrinkles kind of fold up in those areas because it's making contact. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to set the proportions of the shirt. We need to set the bounds. How is the shirt resting on the body? So looking at this, if we grab our Move tool, take our draw size up, we can start to play around with some of this on the shirt. So I usually like to stay asymmetrical on this. So I'll pull up some areas of the shirt, maybe over here, and just kind of say, all right, it's resting a little bit more on the top of the jeans or the pants. And so I just kind of want to pull that out. Maybe right here along this side. It's very possible that this post-apocalyptic character is actually carrying some sort of weapon. And so we're going to get the shirt pulled up in this area. And whenever something is affecting the direction of fabric, it's going to pull up very tight at that point and then gradually lose that curve until it conforms back into the original shape of the shirt or the cloth. You'll also kind of pull that closer to the body, okay, in those areas. Pull that closer. It's maybe pulled away from the body a little bit where the weapon is actually pushing away from that. Okay. If you don't want a weapon or anything like that in there, you could go ahead and just pull that shirt back down, whatever you want to do. In this case, I'm going to leave that up just for right now. Okay. Also, you'll want to think about how the shirt is kind of falling here on the back. It's not going to be quite that tight up against the back, so we're going to pull that out. little bit. Okay, make sure we get that on both sides. Okay, so it's gonna come down. It may conform to the back a little bit, but not quite that much. Okay, think about how this is going to bunch up. Just changing the shape of this a little bit. Okay. All right, so there we go. So I'm pretty happy with that shape so far. Now what we want to do is we want to start putting in those major folds. So to get started with this, let's go ahead and go to our standard brush. And I want to make sure that I'm on a lower subdivision level, so make sure you're on subdivision level 1. With your standard brush turned on, go to Stroke, turn on Lazy Mouse, set the lazy step down to 0 so we get a nice smooth line, and then lazy radius to about 40. That should give us plenty of room to create these strokes. Now you may want to take your Z intensity down, but I also want to go ahead and go to my brush and then go to depth, and I'm going to set my embed to something kind of like a negative value. Let's go to something like -3 or so. Go ahead and do a couple of quick tests on that with a lower draw size. Just see how that's going to draw that in. You see it kind of pulls that up very gradually, a nice smooth line there. You could also use the damn standard brush with a different alpha to create these folds as well, but I'm going to go ahead and just stick with the standard at this point. So the wrinkles that we want to create, we've already started creating some right across the breast here, but I'm going to go ahead and create one right across here. Okay, and it just kind of goes up in this direction, maybe one here where it kind of meets there, and then another one maybe a little bit larger and softer right across here. Okay, actually let me make that just a little bit larger, kind of underneath there. You can start to soften those edges a little bit, so using your smooth brush, just kind of softening how that transitions, just leaving the wrinkle in the center. Alright, so there we go, we've got that. Let's go ahead and work a little bit more. Let's go ahead and bring our draw size down a little bit. And I'm going to go from right here, and I'm going to go across the body. And just kind of thinking about, you know, where are the peaks of the shirt, and wrinkles are usually going to go across the valleys of that. Okay, and so we'll start to get a wrinkle that kind of pops up a little bit more, fades off into the shirt. And don't forget about the edges, okay, because they transition back into the surface of the shirt there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Normally whenever we have a wrinkle, we've got a valley, and then there's some sort of peak that comes back across that. So it's usually a lighter wrinkle or something like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. I want to go ahead and just stroke across that one more time like that. Okay. And then we'll come in and we'll create a couple of other major cloth folds. I'm going to take my draw size up just a little bit more. And this is going to go from the rib cage, and it might come down the front of the shirt, kind of like that. Alright. Before we leave and go down into the abdomen, let's also think about what's up here. These are going to be some smaller folds. And I guess you could call these secondary folds, but I like to think of them as major fold as well, because you almost always see them in a t-shirt. Usually these folds come from the armpit area, and they kind of fold up around the breast. And what we're getting here is just the shirt bunching up in this area, and it even comes off of the sleeve there. You might get a small one right in there. So we'll just kind of start to create some of those wrinkles that we see here. Okay, like that. Alright. Normally, we don't have too many wrinkles that go right up across the shoulder. We see a little bit more of the seam there. This is where the shirt actually rests. You don't see a whole lot of wrinkles. You might see some some minor wrinkles or even some memory wrinkles. And what a memory wrinkle is when a shirt maybe has been in a pile for a long time, and you take that out and you take a look at it, you see kind of these very light and turbulent type of wrinkles. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on with our major wrinkles. I want to go back down to the abdomen here, and we're going to start thinking about the wrinkles that are going to go horizontal across the base of the hips here, because the shirt is kind of building up in these areas. And so we'll just kind of drag those across. And we could also start to get a few lighter ones that start to kind of go in this area here. And we just think about how that's going to bunch up. And it's a good idea that as you're creating folds, you might start to get them to overlap one another and crease, kind of doing this kind of pattern. Okay, so it's folding up a little bit more, and then we're getting this wrinkle that comes right across the top. A few different wrinkles there, and then it changes across the shape of the body. Okay, something like that. And then right here across the middle, especially along the back, you're going to get tons of horizontal wrinkles here. Let's make sure that we get these down here across the bottom first, though. Just kind of going in and checking the shape there. You might take the intensity up just a little bit more on these as they become very fine and tight. Okay, and so now we'll come in across here. We'll start to create these wrinkles, and just paying attention to how the body is shaped. So you're going to get wrinkles that come up kind of in this curved shape. Right along in here, they may be a little bit more horizontal, and they might dip down a little bit because of the rib cage. And then you're going to get some of these that are also going to dip down. Okay, not so much. And then they'll start to go more horizontal, like this. Okay, and then in between the shoulder blades, you're going to get wrinkles that just go straight across from these high points. Okay, like that. And then you're going to have some wrinkles that come up underneath, like this. Okay, bunching up in the shirt there. Okay, and horizontal. Might get one or two here. And then quite possibly you might start to get a couple of wrinkles that come around the top of the shirt like this, right around the collar. And just a couple of stray ones here, and I'm kind of putting in some of the minor ones too as I go along. I really shouldn't do that, but I'm just kind of filling in the way I see that. Okay, now you could also get some wrinkles around the edge of the shirt, just kind of along this area, and these are considered minor wrinkles. So again, I'm kind of going off of this a little bit. Some of them just kind of bother me a little bit too much to go without actually putting a wrinkle across them. Okay. All right, so those are our major wrinkles. Now what we want to do is we want to start kind of smoothing them out and then making the folds a little bit tighter and just kind of bringing them out a little bit more. And so we'll talk about how to do that in our next lesson.